to the official podcast at ContentChampion.com. Join our heroic quest to discover truly epic content marketing. Introducing your host, the content champion himself, Loz James.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 30 of the Content Champion podcast. I love doing these, so thanks as ever for listening. This show is really a follow-up to the great Authority Site podcast I did with Brian Dean of Backlinko last year. But this time I'm speaking with Gael Breton of Authority Hacker, who makes nearly $20,000 a month from his authority sites. The fascinating thing is, he uses some of Brian Dean's strategies to do this. I'm really excited about the whole authority site business model, so let's dive straight in. Thanks for coming on, Gael.
Hi.
Now, you're the successful SEO and affiliate expert behind the Authority Hacker blog, and also have an incredible business building your own authority sites, and we'll turn to that in a minute. So firstly, could you tell us about your history and how you got started online, please?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't very ambitious to start with. I used to study in a French business school, and I had to do an internship, and so I applied to work in glamorous locations like Los Angeles and New York and stuff, and nobody would take me in internship. So eventually, I mean, I had been studying in Asia for a year and a half in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And so eventually I applied for a startup company in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, that at the time was doing actually search engine optimization, which I had no idea what it was. I've always been a geek. I've always been a big online game player and, spending a lot of time on my computer overall. But I've never done any kind of online marketing. And actually, I found it not very interesting from where I was. Anyway, that was the only internship that I got. So here I go to Malaysia and then started learning about all of that. I did pretty well. They hired me after I graduated. So I moved back to Malaysia for another 6 months after I graduated. They liked what I was doing, and they were giving me a pretty decent salary for Malaysia, so life was good. As a fresh graduate, I had an apartment with a swimming pool on the roof and a gym and drinking cocktails there in the weekend and everything. Couldn't complain, really. So that the lifestyle was the most appealing at the time, because I still didn't understand it very well when you get started. But I kind of like the lifestyle of just being around the world and being able to work from your computer for US companies and Australian companies and so on, and have a great lifestyle in a place where life is not too expensive. The thing is, the company grew pretty well when I was in Kuala Lumpur and decided to open an office in London. Given that the founders were Australian and I was the only European in the company, they decided to send me over there to open the office for them. The problem is, that started getting away from the lifestyle I wanted. It wasn't like, yeah, sure, I was moving to London, but my salary was really not on par with my buying power back in Malaysia, and it just didn't feel very nice in terms of lifestyle. So I kind of looked for a way to get out of it, literally 2 weeks after moving back to London. But my co-founder and I had a small site that was reselling services on the side, like SEO services, etc. And we tended to do decent SEO already. So we started picking up clients, and income was coming in through that as well. And then when I just couldn't take it anymore in London, after about 5 or 6 weeks, I just decided that I would give a go full time to that little sites we had. And we started an agency, and that's how we started working for clients. And then we've grown that agency quite a lot. There's still a team working on this project. We still have a bunch of clients and stuff. But as we went, we've also decided that we wanted to grow our own properties, and now that's basically what we're doing. We're growing authority sites. Plus, we keep the agency running. We're not necessarily trying to grow it very much, but it's something that's still running for us.
Now, obviously, a lot's happened in the SEO world, and this led you on to the Authority Hacker blog as well, which you're going to talk about. But just to give us an idea of the success of your authority site business, would you be able to share any revenue figures with us?
Yeah, I mean, across all our sites, I'd say we make a little bit less than $20,000 a month right now.
Wow.
So it's very livable, especially if you don't live in Western Europe or in any expensive place. We still have our agency project running as well, so that makes also a little bit of income. So yeah, that's basically what we make across everything we have right now.
Okay, so there's obviously a good income model there. We know we can make money from this, but why authority sites? What changed in the online landscape and SEO? Why did you move away from the agency and into building your own authority sites?
Okay, moving away from the agency to building your authority sites, it's a rationale that when you work for clients, I see more as a short-term slash more unstable thing because in companies strategies can change, and even though you may be doing a good job at what you're doing, maybe they decide to shift away from online marketing or all this stuff, and so it's a little bit less predictable than running your own sites. You know your own sites will not change strategy until you decide to change the strategy. So I see consulting income as like a great way to, as a consultant, to make good money quickly because you get paid for your time. Whereas authority sites is like you lose money usually for the first 6 to 9 months. And after that, it's usually all very good. But once you've passed these initial 6 to 9 months that are harder and you've been willing to sacrifice resources to grow them, then they're kind of a sure thing as long as you don't do anything stupid with them. So that's basically why.
This is going to be very interesting to a lot of our listeners because I'm following this kind of track. I work with clients in a consultancy basis. I've always done copywriting and SEO and content marketing, and I've had affiliate sites on the side as well over the last sort of 10 years. The authority site model, something I talked with Brian Dean about a while back last year now, is something that's very appealing to me. I'm doing it now through the blog that we're on, Content Champion. But the leap of faith that's required for a lot of people to say go from earning money from consultancy fees into saying, as you said, 6-9 months before you earn any money, you're at the mercy of kind of Google changing everything, or are you?
Yeah, to some extent, because we still get a lot of traffic from Google. But our number one conversion goal usually when people go on the site is that they give us their email address. So like, for example, on our health site, like we have over 100,000 email addresses that we can reach out to at any point in time. So if we really had anything to sell or any new article or something, we know we can generate a few thousand visits without the help of Google at all. And doing things like building up your social profiles and doing all of that, it just helps you like not need that traffic immediately. Like I'm not saying that it wouldn't hurt if that was gone, but basically I take Google as a way to like borrow traffic. And what I like is the same way when I do PPC. When I do PPC, I always direct people to a squeeze page. So I try to get their contact details so I can contact them again for free later. Well, I try to do the same thing with Google. It's like, hey, I got that traffic. I don't know if I'm going to get it tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the contact details of as many people as I can. And as a result, I'll be able to reach them out if one day that Google traffic goes away. So that's the goal, even though Google is a very important part in that strategy.
Okay, so the core to this is obviously capturing the email addresses, nurturing the emails, making the money on the back end, and the traffic just comes from wherever the traffic comes from. So we'll dig into all that. Just quickly, how many sites do you have? How many authority sites?
We have like 6 right now. The thing is like we don't necessarily want to open a new site every month or something. We'd rather just like expand what we have. And 6 sites is already a lot of work. So I'll probably make like one more next year for a case study, so I'll probably make it public and stuff. But overall, we don't necessarily intend to start a lot of new sites in the next few years, actually.
Okay, well, let's look at the theme of starting new sites then. Perfect place to look at it. Drill down into the specifics of perhaps starting with choosing a niche, one that will earn money. How do we go about doing this?
There's basically 2 things you need to care about. It's like, do you need to buy stuff to do that thing you're talking about? And what is the urgency your readers will have? So if it's, for example, a health problem, then it's usually pretty urgent, or at least they feel the urge, because if it's something cosmetic, it's just the social pressure. If it's something that's related to their health, well, their lives is on the line or something. If it's more of a passion, for example, that works too. So it's basically like you just got to assess the urgency and the amount of money you've got to spend on that. But I would recommend mostly to pick something you'd be interested in reading a whole book about. So one thing we do is before we start a website, we have to go and buy basically the number 1 selling book on Amazon about it. And we have to finish that book and be willing to read more. If we don't start the site.
Oh, okay. So it might be that you're going into, I don't know, like you say, the health niche, and it might be a certain type of fitness area, and you buy the book on that on Amazon, and you get into that and you think, okay, do some simple checks on Google, see if people are monetizing that through AdWords and other things. And if there's money to be made, that and you're interested in it, it's a good place to start.
Yeah, I look at affiliate programs as well a lot because, like you can make money off Amazon and AdSense and everything, but I mean, that's not what's gonna make you like $10,000 a month unless you have a lot of traffic. So looking at affiliate programs that are outside, like, the 7% or 8% of Amazon and the few cents per click on AdSense, because that can make, a few $100 a month, no problem, but it's going to be hard to get into the multiple thousands of dollars with just that unless you're selling items that are very expensive and people buy rather easily.
Okay, so we'll move on to monetization a bit later on. But if we've chosen our niche, how do we set up a branded domain? How do we select that? And what sort of hosting are you putting these sites on?
Usually you take what's available because it's not like finding .com domains is very easy. We always go for .coms. It's still the reference and like, like you can do well with .net, etc. But in people's mind, it's just all .com. Think about your grandma or etc. Apart from your country TLD and .com, they don't even know what .net or .org is or something like that. So definitely .com. What we try to do is we start on a smaller niche, so we'd probably take a sub-niche of the niche we've picked to develop all our content about initially, but we'll pick a domain that can expand. Once we run out of stuff to say in that sub-niche, we can always pick another one and another one and another one, and that's why we don't start many sites. Because essentially we have domains that can be quite broad and have so many opportunities for us to develop content that there is no point buying a new domain. It's almost like starting a new site on your existing domain using all the domain authority and all these things. So, but in terms of picking a domain, it's very much about finding something that's available and remember, like people can remember quite easily and short and everything.
So it's not like the old school days of buying, exact match domains. They're gone, they're out the window. You pick something that's a brand, if you like.
Yeah, I would never go. I mean, exact match domains just look so cheap, and they're too narrow. You can't make an authority site because, like, how to cure back pain when you're 65.com, whatever it is. There's not so much you can put about on this except exactly what this domain is about. Whereas if you take articulationpain.com or something, I don't know, then you'll be able to talk about elbow problem and joint problems and back problems and like a lot of these things. And you can take each thematic and develop literally like 50 to 100 pieces of content about each of them. So if you have a domain like that, then you'll be kept busy for a while. And since it doesn't really matter in rankings anymore what your domain is about, you're much better picking a broad domain, building legit domain authority, and then using it for a lot of content.
And do you pick cheap Bluehost style hosting in the beginning and then move up to something better and faster, or do you just get good hosting from the start?
We have a decent hosting account right now, so we put everything there. Knowing what I know today, if I was to start, I would probably go over on DigitalOcean because it's like VPS with SSDs, etc. So it's pretty fast, but it starts at $5 a month. But you need to be comfortable, like, running your console and setting up your hosting yourself. There's no cPanel, there's no nothing, right? So if you're happy doing that, then I would probably start with DigitalOcean. Otherwise, if you're just getting started, you don't make money yet, just start with a Bluehost account. It's plenty. It's good enough to get started. Yeah, your site's going to be a bit slower, but seriously, when you make $0 a month, it's not about site speed. It's about figuring out how to get some traffic and make some sales.
Okay, figuring out traffic. I guess it starts then with keyword research. How does this factor into building your authority site? Do you map out keywords first?
When we start with authority sites, actually, we don't necessarily even try to make money initially now because we already make money from other sites. So what we do is we try to build authority first. So we try to get the domain to domain authority like 35 or more quite quickly. And the way we do that is we use the brandings technique. Actually, we use the skyscraper technique. So we just go and find content that got a lot of link in that niche, like find really good writers and hire like designers and stuff to create graphics to go with it, etc. Post it on the domain even and have a couple other blog posts to show it's not just a one-page domain, and just do our outreach and get these links. Once we have a little bit of domain authority, so like 25 to 35, let's say, then what I do is I find competitors that have about the same domain authority, and I put them in SEMrush, and I find everything they rank for, and I just go and snag that. We try to make it a viable project once we reach that point, so we try to make it break even, so we can spend like $500 to $1,000 a month on content, without it costing us anything. So we need to make at least that much money, because like that's when you're comfortable keeping your site going, right? You're like, hey, it's costing me nothing and I'm building up an asset. So what you do is, usually it's not the big keywords, because the big keywords take way longer. It's monetized keywords, so things like product reviews and what is the best X and all of these things. Basically the types of keywords that a lot of people used for niche sites that are now wide open, because a lot of niche sites were just using gray hat tactics, etc. So you can just walk in with your white hat domain authority, use internal linking, and just rank for all these terms and make money out of it.
You mentioned content creation. I read somewhere, I think I saw a presentation you did where you say, to get the right content, you just go in, see who's ranking well for that particular term or that type of content. You use the skyscraper technique to beat that content. And you might get the writers who've written in that space before to write the high quality stuff and then share it with their own social media followings as well.
One thing I like to do is like, hey, I get started in the niche. So I think in that presentation, I took the example of paleo. And what you do is you type like best paleo blogs on Google, and then you get a bunch of people that will blog post about the top 10 paleo blogs and the top 100 paleo blogs, blah, 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 blah. Then send an email to all these people and be like, hey, are you interested in a writing job? And offer that job to them. And then be like, when we publish it, we'd also like if you could share it. Just make it part of the job. And then, yeah, just order something that's bigger than that content you've seen. And then if it has the name of someone that's already known in the niche as well on it, then reverse engineering the people that got links and sending them an email and saying, hey, we got that piece, doesn't become very difficult anymore.
So these are essentially multi-author blogs. And how much are you paying for that length of content to beat out the last person per piece of content?
Usually a lot. Like for a nice piece of content just for the text, we pay up to $200 sometimes. So like, if you go in there and think you're going to spend $15 just making something better than other people, you already lost. Because, yeah, sure, you can produce content for cheaper, but then the response rate of your outreach is going to be like, 4 times lower. And then, yeah, you're going to spend less on content, but you're going to spend 4 times more on outreach. And outreach tends to be the biggest piece of work, So if you don't just put the right thing in there in the first place, doesn't matter how good the cook is, if the ingredients are bad, it's just going to end up not working out. And that's why you should just be willing to just spend some money. Then that also builds the incentive for you to actually do the promotion, because a lot of people say, hey, we're going to create this amazing content, blah, 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 blah. They post it on their site, and then, I'm too lazy to promote it. But like once you spend $250 on a piece of content, trust me, you'll want to promote it,
It amazes me. I've been copywriting for 15 years. It never ceases to amaze me how people think they're going to get that kind of interaction, that engagement that they want with their content. And it's, $20 for a page or whatever. It's pretty short-sighted, maybe.
I mean, the thing is, like, you got to think of what you want to do and how ambitious you are for your content. Because the problem with people not willing to pay a lot for content is the lack of ambition for their content. They don't think many people will read them. They don't think it's going to drive any sales. They just think it's that kind of SEO thing you have to do on the side, but you're kind of doing it unwillingly. And when people come with that mindset, then they're not willing to spend a lot of money, and they try to get as cheap as possible. They don't understand that it would be better to not spend money on content at all from that point of view. Like, you just spend your $20 on PPC, you get more results. But that's why the discount thing is really just about like really trying to connect with people, but also like, building in the sales and starting to talk about it at the beginning of the article, and then just build it up to like a conversion at the end. So it's like, most of our blog posts and content now are basically landing pages. Because what we do is there's a free article, obviously, and it can rank, it can get links, it can do all of that. But then there's a conversion part where we create another piece of content that people can download in exchange for their email. That's the content upgrade thing. And then in the content upgrade, we build a sale in it. And also on the thank you page, when they put their email, there is some kind of a premium thing that they can buy. So it's like, hey, you get a free PDF, but if you want, there's a whole ebook about that topic. This is where it's good, A, B, C, D. And then click here to check it out. And you'll make sales from that. It's a very natural flow of people reading free content, liking it. The people that are willing to give their email are already even more invested. And the people that have given their email have a good chance of being interested in a premium product, and you can drive traffic to it, and then that can make sales. So if you have that kind of ambition for your content, and it's going to be around forever, and that product is not going to die tomorrow, then it's very possible to make tens of thousands of dollars from a single piece of content. So from that point of view, investing $200 to make tens of thousands of dollars, like, I'll spend all my money on that.
You're listening to the Content Champion Podcast, showcasing the best content marketing strategies across the web.
We're back with Gael Breton. I interviewed Steve Cam last year of Nerd Fitness, and he said that he wrote a paleo page, a paleo article, like the ultimate guide. He hadn't monetized it, and then he put an app at the end of it, and he makes an absolute killing from this one page of content, just as you've described.
Oh yeah, we have pages that make us thousands of dollars that way. It's just per month. It's just the way it is, and that's why. And you don't even need all your content to work out that way, right? Even if like 1 in 20 works out to make that much money, you're still very, very profitable. It's really about putting as much as you can in each piece of content to reduce the failure rate. And yeah, so like making it as good as you can and making 1 in 20 works, and you're already like 300% profit,
Each piece of content, this absolutely fascinates me. It's not like the old days where it's all separate. The keyword research, then the actual content production, and then the promotion. The content is like a little sort of mini microclimate. It's informed by who writes it and where they can share it, and so there's some promotion rolled into it. It's also informed by the content upgrade process and how it can be monetized. So each one of these, it's almost not to be thought of as a page of content. It's a whole ecosystem whereby it all interlinks on one page now. And yeah, like you say, you could be reading through your paleo article, and then you get a pop-up comes in 3/4 of the way down, offering you an upgrade. If it might be a workbook or a template or an ebook or whatever it is, and then you join up with your email address, and then you're made an offer after that.
Yeah, so they just they put their email, and then I'm like, hey, I've just sent you the link to download this free ebook I offered you, and you obviously give that free thing you offered, but click here to check out this even better thing, or like that better ebook or that better software or whatever you're talking about. And you direct people either to a pre-sales page or to directly an offer, depending on how well it sells by itself. And yeah, it's basically just a sales funnel,
So it's pointless, really, in that regard. Just getting lots of people go out and say, right, I'll spend £1,000 on content, get all their content produced, and then just putting it there in isolation. There's no point in doing that.
Yeah, you need to think about like, what's your end goal? Like, I always start with my end goal. So most people are like, oh, we need to get higher SEO rankings, so we need to produce content or whatever it is. No, you need to think about what you want to sell. So like, that's why I showed in that webinar, right? I just picked that paleo ebook, I think. And I was like, okay, so here's this paleo ebook. They pay me $27 per sale. So that's quite a bit, If I could sell 10 a day, I would make not far from $9,000 a month. So what I need to do to sell 10 is I need to figure out what people are searching for before they would buy. They would be willing to spend, in that case, I think it's like $35 in an ebook for paleo. And what they're looking for is whether paleo is good for them, what are maybe some free recipes before they buy the 300 recipes ebook. They're looking if it's good when you have this condition, or if maybe some celebrities that have been following that, all these things that you can kind of like, you're kind of interested in the topic, but you didn't really spend money in it yet. Then just find these and produce that content, and then make that content upgrade that links between the free content and the paid offer,
Are you cloaking affiliate links, or is there no need because they're actually off-site in that model, aren't they?
I mean, we're doing redirects, but that's more for like statistics. So we see our click-through rates, and we see all of that. So it's much easier to do that with redirects. So we use redirects, but it's not like we block the redirects or anything.
Okay, so those affiliate links, you only have one on a page of maybe 3,000 words of content.
It really depends, to be honest. It's not a cookie cutter technique, right? You need to think about what the reader wants and think about it. Give them enough free information before you make an offer, because otherwise they won't be interested. That's why content upgrades will just work well at the end, and you can put a mention about it on the top. But if you do it with content upgrades, you can put 0 affiliate links on your page, actually, if you think about it. All you need to do is you have your piece of content, and you're like, hey, click here, and it just opens that pop-up where they put their email, and then it's just a redirect to a thank you page. And the thank you page sends you to wherever you want. So your content doesn't even need to have affiliate links, actually. Plus, when you're doing link building, like, you look very clean. You don't look like you're hard selling on your content. So it's much easier to outreach for it and get people to link to it,
That's exactly what I'm getting at. Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. These are just links. You never use banners or anything?
We sell some banners on one of our sites, but because it gets so much traffic. And before we figured all of that out, we created a bunch of content that's not very well monetized for us. So selling ads on this just, makes it profitable. But it's really something we're slowly walking away from. It doesn't make nearly as much money as when you make the sale yourself.
Okay. Now, we've looked at, to a certain degree, promotion techniques. I know this is a massive, massive topic because you can spend much more time promoting than you can producing the content. But what are your sort of top 3 ways that you get eyeballs on the page?
Once again, it really depends on the niche you're in and where people are. But using social sites, using things like Reddit and the new Dig and StumbleUpon, etc., is definitely a way to get people on the page. And if people are not going to vote it on Reddit, it just means you're not good enough at creating content and you need to work on that skill. So it's basically that simple. So that's one. The second one is obviously building your followership using email and social. So things like content lockers work really well. So one very, very easy trick to get more likes on your Facebook page, for example, or more followers on Twitter or whatever you want, is to use these content lockers and then just grab a how-to video on YouTube about the topic and just put that video behind the locker and be like, hey, click like to see the video. And, YouTube videos are you're allowed to use them, actually, for that. As long as you don't monetize it, it's actually okay in the YouTube license. So you can do that. And instead of putting the page where people are on, you actually put the URL of Facebook page. This way, they don't just like your page; they actually become a fan of your page, and that means you'll be able to pop up on their Facebook timeline and all these things. So, growing your fans that way is a pretty good way. All the content upgrades, etc., get you a bunch of emails, so it's easy to email people. And then, the outreach. If you want to get links or big bloggers or big authorities to share your stuff, you usually need to email them. They're not necessarily waiting for you to publish, so you need to go over there and talk to them,
And you use BuzzStream for that, don't you?
I actually released a massive tutorial last week, I think, about it. I think that's 3,000 words and 62 minutes of video on it, on how I use it for outreach. So I use BuzzStream extensively. Actually, I used to have one of the biggest accounts ever created on it. We used to have 500,000 sites on it, actually.
Oh, wow. Okay. Anything we could avoid? We've gone through the process, really. It's been fantastic. But, obviously, we want to avoid mistakes so that we don't fail, because people might not be in a position to build for 6 months, not monetizing it, and then think, oh, crap, it's all gone wrong at the last minute. So what mistakes can we avoid?
You never fail until you stop, right? So that's the first thing. It's you need to keep it going for a while. We have this site like healthambition.com, which now gets around 300,000 visits per month. But 6 months after we started it, it was only getting 200 visits per day. So not very much. So you're talking 6,000 visits a month. And so if we looked at just that 6 months timeline and stopped, then it would never be where it's at right now. It's making a lot of money, So that's one of the things, keeping it going. The second thing is looking for early signs of failure. So if you've been creating 7 blog posts, posting them on all the social sites I talked about, like Pinterest and Reddit and StumbleUpon, etc., and you get 0 share out of that, then there's a problem. You're probably not creating the right kind of content. You need to change things and you need to pivot all the time. So that's one thing we believe a lot in, is the lean startup and basically finding the metrics that allow us to validate everything we do. So when we start a new site, the first goal is just to get social shares. Social shares make you money, but if you're unable to create content that gets shared and get engagement, then you're probably not going to do very well unless you get lucky with SEO. But even then, when you do it the right way, you need to convince editors to link to you. If it's not very good, it's going to be much harder. So it's basically this, looking for early signs of failure and keeping it going for a while as soon as your signs of failure are looking okay.
And you mentioned 7 posts or whatever. You're not posting every day on all your sites, are you? How often do you post?
Honestly, nowadays it's very irregular. Most people think that you run an authority site the same way you run a blog, which doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You could be spending 3 months without posting and working on other things, and it's still okay. And if you look at people like Brian Dean, actually, he did the same. For Backlinko, he didn't post for 3 months, and he got 200% growth. So really, how often do you post, I think, is a little bit irrelevant. You just need to think about your objective and what you need to work on your campaigns. And sometimes it's posting and creating content to get more traffic and all of that and growing your audience. And sometimes it's just doing a better job by monetizing your audience. And in that case, then you stop focusing on content and you focus on, doing more with what you already have. So how often you post for us it's actually very, very irregular these days. But it's okay. We get people's emails. We email them when there's something new and they come back,
Okay, and you don't offer any affiliates offers directly to that list, or you just send them back to the site?
Very rarely. It really depends. Once again, then we get into email marketing, but that's a whole new topic. But depends on how you segmented your lists, etc. We do a lot of behavioral segmenting and all of that. So we create hundreds of tiny lists based on a lot of different criteria. So when we have enough segmentation in place and we know exactly that this tiny part of our list will be interested in that product, then yes, we will do direct promotion. But when the list is not necessarily yet very segmented, and that's one of these things that we do when we don't produce content, is resegmenting our lists and behavioral targeting and all of that. Then when we don't have that, we tend to not promote directly because it's hard to find something that will match everyone in a list.
Okay, and there are various tools out there you can use to segment lists and various CRMs and everything else. Okay, this has been absolutely fascinating. Just before the PS question, can you remind us, please, where we can find you online and what you have on offer?
Yeah, if you want to go check what we do, go on Hacker.com, and we basically produce tutorials on different processes that we use to run our website. So I just talked about the burst stream one, where I literally give all the templates we use for outreaching, and I have videos of me doing it, and I have all of that. So it's very, very hands-on. We don't necessarily talk a lot about super deep concepts, etc. It's more hey, just follow the step-by-step things in that post and you'll be able to do this process for yourself, or you can pass it to someone else. There's also a free authority SEO course. So if you sign up to the list, then don't worry, you get many ways to sign up on the site. You get, I think, a pop-up, there's a sidebar. You'll most likely get some retargeting, follow you after, etc. So I'm not too worried about you finding it. There's 9 video series with no pitch that just gives you free information on how we structure our websites and set up our WordPress sites and do all these things. So yeah, that's basically where you can find us. I've also recently launched a course on list building. It's a small one, but it's interesting. It's basically 3 hours of video of me setting up all the things I use to collect emails in a very efficient way. So on our sites, we achieve up to 10% opt-in rate. So that's every 10 visits, we get 1 email. And that basically shows all the tactics we use to do that and how we set it up. So yeah, that's basically it.
Wait for it, listeners. Here comes the PS question.
Could you please share one advanced content marketing strategy that we can use right after this call?
Yeah, it's going to be super simple. I don't know how advanced people are, but that's something that a lot of people know, but very few people do, is obviously you need to have a Twitter account for your website. Find your competitor and follow 100 of their followers every day, and just do that. You will see that after that, when you start tweeting, you get a bunch of retweets and reshares and people interacting with you, etc. I built backlinks, I met people, I made money, I made affiliate sales just from Twitter by just following my computer's followers. So just doing that works very well.
It's a great strategy, and I know that because I built my Twitter following to 11,000 people doing exactly that. So recommend everyone goes to do that. Look, thanks, Gael. It's been a brilliant call. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best of luck with everything in future.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for listening, guys.
You've been listening to the Content Champion podcast. Available at ContentChampion.com, Stitcher, Zune, the BlackBerry Network, and on iTunes. Until next time, thanks for listening.